So there's this article that got forwarded to me. Title is 38-year-old woman decides she wants a baby, claims she's been betrayed by feminism. All right.
I like this.
So this is a story that I've heard a lot of over the last few years. Before I read this, just want to have a quick preface to it. We've seen this over and over and over and over again, right? So Zoe and Luna, they were talking earlier on about prioritizing career. Luna wants to go to Prague and, work over there for a period of time. There's a guy that she's hot for. Zoe, also wants to prioritize, the career. And I'm asking questions about, have you thought about these things or contemplating, some of these ideas about a potential future? Because a lot of women now, you'll start to see articles. It's usually like late 30s, that they start to talk about this, maybe into the early 40s if they haven't had their kids yet. So 38-year-old woman decides she wants a baby. It reads, a woman said she felt betrayed by feminism after deciding she wanted to settle down, have a family and a husband as she approached her 39th birthday. At one point, now, guys, if you're watching, women's ability to have children decreases over the years. Like their peak fertility is in their very early 20s. Every year after that, the chances of a high-risk pregnancy increase year after year. By the time they hit 40, it's not a good idea, generally speaking, right? So this girl, Melissa Persling, recently wrote an essay for Business Insider titled, I'm 38 and single. I recently realized I wanted a child. I'm terrified I've missed the opportunity. She said it went viral in November. Hate began to pour in from men telling her that she's lived a selfish life. Persling has a much different account of her story. So people are telling her, you've been selfish and you've missed the boat. And she's saying, no, I have a different account. When she was 22, she married a traditional man and moved to a rural community in Idaho. This is where she grew up. She wanted a simple life with children. He wanted a simple life with children and home-cooked meals. She said, however, Persling, despite coming from a religious Christian background, made it clear to her husband-to-be that she did not want children. At that time, I felt very strongly I did not want children. I wasn't going to be like a traditional housewife. I knew that I wanted to pursue a career. Sound familiar, Zoe? Still with us?
100%, yes, it does.
She told Fox News Digital in an interview, and I felt very strongly that would never change, and I guess I was wrong. Persling said both her and her ex thought that love could conquer everything, but after 10 years, it was clear that their differences and life goals were irreconcilable. Persling said she became resentful when he would ask for a dinner or for his laundry to be done. Shocking, that a man would ask for something, that women would typically have done for thousands of years, like a pink job, right? Whereas I'm sure she had the expectation of him that he would cut the grass, shovel the driveway, change the tires from summer to winters and stuff like that. So she became resentful when he would ask for a simple tasks like laundry or a dinner. I did little to hide my disdain for our small town life. He was a good and hardworking man, but I don't think I made him feel that way. At 30, Persling and her ex divorced. She swore off the idea of marriage. This is her crying here on the television interview when she's come to the realization, the terror of wanting to be married at 38 and have children when she left it for too long. I told my friends and family I'd never get married again. I needed independence. This is at 30 again. A fulfilling career and a space to chart my own course. Does any of this sound familiar, Zoe?
Yeah.
And I didn't think marriage fit into that vision. Marriage, relationship, you can substitute marriage for dating, relationship, whatever. I was content to look forward to a future without a husband, children, and the trappings of a traditional life, she wrote. As she grew older, however, the fun, the carefree lifestyle, being wine and dine, going to parties began to get old. The pursuit of comfort and self became dull, she said. When she turned 38, terror began to take over. I was panic-stricken. I really thought I was going to die alone. It scared me. I almost wrote the article as sort of a warning to other women. I don't want people to miss out on the importance of things in life because they've just enjoyed themselves. And because I don't think that's ever really going to make you happy, she said. Again, another screenshot of her all, busted up over the conversation with Fox Media. She wrote in the article how she felt urgency to find a stable relationship and was rethinking about wanting marriage and children at 38. I hardly recognize myself, she wrote in the article. I also began to feel selfish for spending so much time focusing solely on myself. My very existence started to feel shallow and hollow. In retrospect, Persling believed she had some self-discovery to do, to work on. It took time, sort of through previous trauma, her parents' divorce, which she described as coming from a broken home. Sound familiar, Zoe?
Mm-hmm.
Took time to heal, blah, blah, blah. I grew up in a fairly traditional family, but my parents were divorced. And I would say that probably had some effect on the feelings about having family coming from a broken home. Certainly has its hardships, she told. At one point, she recalled a man coming over to her in a coffee store. Okay, she's just sort of rekindling. Okay, so this is the guys that she's kept in the friend zone now. And then a happy turn to Persing's story arrived when she describes the exception as not the rule for women in her age group. Shortly after penning the article, she dated a man who she previously befriended. Dates a guy, puts him in the friend zone. They're already talking about marriage and a future. She dished out the details. So it's a guy that I've been friends with. And we've always just sort of stayed in touch. So for those watching that are men, you need to understand that women like to have a backup plan. It could be a gay dude, could be a guy that she put in the friend zone that she's not totally attractive to, but sees him as maybe husband material because he's successful, but he's not attractive enough for her to pine for him, sort of thing. It's pretty common for guys to end up in that zone, hoping that if they're a nice enough guy, at some point she'll see his virtues in the future and want to, settle for him or to, go for him, sort of thing.
These are the guys who make deals that if we're both single at 30, if we're both single at 40,
if we're both single at 40 or 38, let's get married and have a baby, right? And then it goes on to say, after her epiphany, by the way, women hit a epiphany phase in their late 20s, early 30s, where they're like, I think it's time to have babies. She wanted a traditional life. Shocking, right? In her 20s, she wanted to pursue a career and establish herself, which is unsurprising because if you come from a single parent household, you see how that parent struggles. The parent often tells the child, don't rely on anybody, build your own life, build your own path, make sure you've got a secure income. Man, like a woman needs a man, like a fish needs a bicycle. A lot of these, sort of sound bites. So she went from not wanting a traditional life in her 20s to wanting one in her 30s, and it hit her like a ton of bricks. This guy is the one that God's been preparing me for. This is also usually when they find God too, by the way. I've had these relationships since they were so many butterflies and so many like, oh my gosh, checking my phone. Did he text? And I realized that's not love. That's not anxiety. Actually, let me read that again. When a woman's thinking, oh my gosh, checking my phone, did he text? She's right. It's not love and it's not anxiety. It's lust for somebody. It translates into genuine burning desire. Your phone alert goes off and you wonder to yourself, is it him? But it's not. It's somebody else. It's neither love nor anxiety. It's lust for that guy. That's what genuine burning desire looks like from a woman is, she's stoked when her alert goes off and it's him. She'll skip every other message, leave guys unread that she's not interested to. But if that guy messages, boom, wants to see it immediately. Never knew where I stood with these people. Again, see, this is the thing, right? The whole I never knew where I stood with these people. If women aren't finding clarity in where they stand easily as they expect it to be, then they'll just not respond to him. Like Zoe's story where the guy Snapchatted him that night later on after the nightclub and she didn't respond. It's that thinking like, I don't know where I stand. Like, what's he's about? Why did he behave strangely? I'm just going to ignore him for a couple of days because that's what I've always been told, right? If the guy doesn't fall in line and give me what I want all the time. But the thing that women forget is that a lot of these guys, again, they're in demand. There's a lot of very attractive, beautiful women that are in their orbit that want to spend time with them. So they're going to be busy, and it's going to be incumbent on women to some degree to do a little bit of the pursuing in that type of situation. But again, I never knew where I stand with these guys that I had genuine burning desire for. So now she has to settle for this beta male. She has to settle for the guy that, sat in her orbit for years in the friend zone, probably listened to stories about how she was going out with a dude named Chad that didn't, want to commit to her or, take her on a proper date. He just wants to be an FWB and, use her and, call her over at his convenience. This is the sort of thing that I see a lot of. Zoe, what do you think about that?
Well, okay, so I'm not gonna lie. I've mentioned that to my mom. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I was in a relationship for 5 years and it took me this long to realize I didn't want to be with him. Could you imagine if I were to find somewhere tomorrow, someone tomorrow, and I'm with this man for 3, 4, 5 years, and I'm 28 around that time? and I have to start all over again. And then I'm like, wait, that kind of scares me, because should I settle down now? Should I wait? Should I travel? Because you know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to take this time to travel and like be single, but then a part of me is like, will I be too late to have kids? But my mom had me around 36. So she's always
Oh
like,
yeah.
you can always wait, like you always will have time, like, and if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And like, that's kind of my opinion about it. Like, I still want to be able to travel and like not settle down like where I live right now. I still want to be able to experience that.
Right, but I mean, you've also seen a lot of these, like you were telling some stories earlier about some of these successful guys with their, wives and children on the boats in the weekend, having a good time, traveling. It's plausible to do that as well as a family, right? I mean,
I
so
agree.
your mom was 36 when she had you. Do you have any other siblings?
I have a sister. She has been in a long-term relationship, and she just moved in with him.
And your sister's older or younger?
She's 1 year older than me.
Okay. And same father?
Yes.
Okay. And what does your dad say about everything in life today when you go to him for advice?
Unfortunately, I have not met my father. My mom's been single since, since I was born. So
You didn't have any access to your dad when you were growing up?
no.
So what happened there?
He got into drugs and alcohol and was arrested, and he was in jail my entire life. So I never really got to meet him.
So, I mean, you're going to have to take this with a grain of salt, but I dispense cold hard truth bombs. So your mom made a really bad choice in choosing your father.
Yeah.
She chose an awful guy, as an example of a father and a man, and she's giving you advice on when to have kids.
I think it's just her kind of supporting like how I feel about, pursuing my career and, wanting to travel, because she was able to travel because she was a flight attendant her entire career. And so I think that's just a dream of mine. I feel like she just wants to support my dream. It's not necessarily her putting in her opinion about when I should have kids ever. Like, she would never. If I found she would support me if I were to find a man tomorrow,
I think what we're trying to drive at, Zoe, and I had a question, but I'm gonna pivot to this. So, understandably, your mom wants you to be happy. She wants to support you. She's coming from a good place, as most family members generally are. I think what sometimes can be dangerous. I don't know if dangerous is the right word, but I think that the benefit of kind of a show like this and talking to two guys that, don't necessarily have much of a stake in your future, and you're just having a conversation, is that oftentimes our friends and our family are some of the most likely folks to not give it to us straight, to protect us from bad things that might happen. And so I think it's a struggle, your story specifically, and I think for a lot of women growing up, and especially for women that are growing up without sort of and I was going to ask about this, but was there any sort of positive male influence in your life? That was it a uncle or anybody, a family friend that you sort of looked at as sort of that beacon for masculinity, or has it always just been your mom and sister?
I did have a really positive influence on my uncle. He lives in Virginia, and he just flew down for my graduation with my aunt. They have a beautiful son, and I look at them as, relationship goals for sure.
Yeah. I'd be interested if you were to have that conversation with them, what kind of advice they would give you.
I agree.
I think especially if you're looking at the people that you want to embody and asking the people, we kind of have a saying, and Rich is a part of this on me as a kind of student of his teachings and some other things, is make sure the people that you're taking advice from are the people that you would want to trade places with, right? Or if you see people that are embodying and having the life that you want to have, they're probably pretty good, role models or pretty good people to ask about their kind of advice and what they think you should sort of do, even if they are family. I think one of the things we try to drive at is this woman in this article, and I think your mother especially, having two kids post 35, and this woman having a kid, maybe she's going to have a kid 30 or 40, are not necessarily the norm, but they're generally exceptions to the rule. And I think the one thing we just always want people to sort of be mindful of is that I think the biggest lie that most women are told today is that you can have everything you want and you'll never miss out. You can travel the world, you can be single, you can make all the money you want, you can go to beautiful exotic places. You can also find the man of your dreams, pop out a bunch of kids, be it stay-at-home mom. And the reality is the most unhappy demographic of people in this country are single, unmarried women with no children over the age of 40. So this is kind of like this is sort of my unsolicited advice segment, but I would have a conversation with the Virginia folks, and shout out to Virginia, it's where I'm from originally. But I would have a conversation with those folks and get their honest opinion and kind of figure out what they did to make it work, and take it from some people that embody the life that you want to have, and kind of get an idea of what they have to say.
I really hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full-length podcast, you can find that over here, that clip's from. If you're newer to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe over here, and pin down below in the top comment, you'll find a bunch of useful links to my website, my supplement line, books, and a bunch of other stuff. Have an amazing day. Peace out.